Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we have the part 2 of our review of Deliver Hell by a band named Reap the Light, which is, I've reviewed the first 6 tracks and I get to review the remaining 4 today. So if we switch over to here, we're going to be listening through tracks 7 to 10 today, which is going to be good fun. I'm really happy with the first half of this. Well, what the tracks I reviewed in the first, if you haven't watched that album review, I'd recommend going and doing that. I'll put a link in the description of this video for it. But yeah, we're gonna listen to Dark as Night, Run Israel Run, Descend to Madness, should I say, and Victory is Near. So without further ado, let's get started. We'll go Reap the Light with Alex Satan. Let's go. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with their style, dude. It's good to be back. Really slick, kind of almost sort of doomish rock metal riff. I enjoy the sound of that bass. I'm re-familiarizing myself with their production. Really kind of a gritty riff to get ourselves back into the groove of things. Nice drum fill there. A little bit of trill there on the guitars. That's cool. Nice sense of unison among these different elements of the mix.
Take a look at my face. Tell me what you see. Is it devil or angel? I'm not what I seem. For years he tried to hide, only to come out now. Playing on my twisted mind, expecting my will to bow.
Yeah, it's a slow dance, isn't it? We're kind of allowing Alex to really take the center stage and speak his truth there. It's cool. And I like how we're only at this point here at the 1 minute 12 going into the next section here. It's nice that we're not rushing it. Oh, nice vibrato there, dude. Are we doing double tracking of those vocals? Got that hook line there going back into this main riff concept of the track. Cool, easy to follow. The singer Alex is above the rest of the instruments in regards to their frequency, so there's nice stacking involved in the overall arrangement. Oh, that stank on the bow. Working with those semitones, those chromatics. Good job.
Trying hard to keep it down, it's harder than it seems. Constantly trying to push away the weekend from my dreams.
Kind of giving me like an early Black Sabbath-y kind of vibe, eh?
Evil sleeps, it's way inside, locking itself tight. Always taking, running towards. Now I'm dark as night.
Evil seeping inside, always taking what it wants. Now I am, or now it is dark as night. Interesting. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about what this means. I mean, I think I need more context for the story itself, but everything else is pretty solid, to be honest. I can hear this really quiet little lead riff on top of this arpeggiato section, which is a nice change from that heaviness, the low end heaviness of the verse. Solo section. Oh, it's articulate, isn't it? Nice phrasing here. We're not just staying in that same position on the fretboard. We're kind of going up a little bit and dipping down just for a little bit of the break and that tension and that octave sequence. Slick. I'll go for a chordal solo section. That's kind of nice. Yeah, I feel like this is probably a good place to just take a break from the solo. While I'm enjoying the voicing of that and the change from Alex, it's nonetheless, it's okay to have that 16 bar solo and kind of dip out a little bit, you know? Tremolo pick? Slick, man. I'm vibing with that. And back to this verse. I mean, not the verse necessarily, but back to this riff here. Oh, we're doing a double chorus. Cool. I'm wondering how we're going to shake it up here, because usually we need to add just a little bit of extra something here to kind of spice it up. Are there going to be any interesting sort of tail changes or something like that? There's a little bit of shift there. That's cool. Nice. It's grandiose sounding, to be fair. Alex is a fantastic singer and is a lovely addition to this. His efforts on the mic make this track feel quite complete. I don't think this music would have the same amount of power if there weren't singers involved, you know? Like, while it's a fantastic track instrumentally and it's got all the different sort of guitar, bass, drum parts, etc., have a great sense of musicality behind them, I nonetheless feel as if having that singer elevates it, you know? Dope. Cool. Great. You know, it's 6 minutes. That's quite long, but I feel like we carry it well. When you start a track slowly, you know, it kind of allows you to have maybe an extra minute or something like that, just because of the tempo and you know how that's going to roll on to like the different verses and choruses and everything like that. But you know, like it was a chord note groove for the most part, and I think that it contrasts well to some of the faster stuff that we've heard from Reap the Light. We know that they're capable of a wide variety of different moods and different vibes within this album. And they, for the most part, they've pulled them off really, really well. Again, look at the little likes I gave in my previous review. I gave 6 likes, 1 to each of them. You know, I've got lots of love for that, and I think that they earned that. I don't really know how you could have necessarily improved Dark as Night. I don't think you could have taken anything away, so therefore it justifies the length of it. We've got Run Israel Run by Jesse. Oh, that's a tough one. I'm really sorry. I'm going to go with the Occam's Razor, where you go with the simplest way of pronouncing something, and it's probably going to be incorrect. Jesse Urjola, or something like that. Urjola. That's my best effort at pronouncing that. We've got Run Israel Run, though. See, this is instantly faster, you know what I mean? Contrasting the tempos and the grooves and the overall sort of quote-unquote feels of them. It's giving me a real Slayer vibe with this one, you know? Oh, those were some quick double kicks there. That introduction to this sort of thrashier verse part is just, it's succulent, dude. Slick guitar work, dude. I think that repeater on those higher range vocals adds a bit more presence, especially when you've got these guitar parts on the sides that are well mixed as well. You got to do something just to elevate that lead line a little bit, you know? Oh, we're going to a solo at this point. It's kind of triumphant, isn't it, amongst the galloping that's going on with the percussion section. I'm not sure what the Israel is referring to in this one, because I know Israel is a country, but Israel may also have been a person. Yeah, again, that vibrato there, the notes that were held there, the power in his voice is being handled well in the post-processing, but at the same time, I feel like it'd be killer to hear Jesse live. Like that sounds like the kind of vocal style that you need to hear in that gig situation, you know? I hope that Reap the Light are able to do shows. I mean, I know they're working with different vocalists, so it might be quite difficult, but even if they can find like one or two that can sort of help out for live shows. Again, it's fun to just not have the vocals come in at the start of the chorus section, to almost have that lead line like a bridge is something we haven't really heard from Reap the Light yet in Deliver Hell, and I adore that. I like how we're still changing it up even this late into the album. We're not taking our listeners' attention for granted, you know? Like, to be honest, this would be a song we'd probably like snap your neck with headbanging, dude. It's so intense and so easy to sort of like groove along to, and it's the energy with everyone and the chemistry between the musicians involved is so evident, not only in the collective sound of it, but in the overall kind of like mood of the performances as well, you know? There's a sense of urgency and a kind of a Power Maiden-esque kind of vocal harmony style going on here in those chorus sections. It energizes you, you know? How the hell does he hold those notes that long? That's phenomenal vocal technique. That increase in tension by doubling the amount of that drum fill before the solo section to let Jesse do his thing is just, chef's kiss, dude. Fantastic move. I like the solo quite a lot. I think just, it's the speed of it. It justifies these 16th note arpeggiated runs. I didn't even know where we're going with it though. It's unpredictable, and that's what makes it so exciting, you know? And back into this lead riff. Great choice, dude. Does that mean we're rolling with the same pickup position for the lead solos as for the other parts? Oh no, we're continuing with the development of the main original motif here, and we're elevating it to the next stage. Oh, nice panning here, cool. Oh, halftime! I thought we were gonna do this, but we're already, you know, we're going, well, this is like even half of the original time, isn't it? Are we going double time, ignoring normal time and going to halftime? I think we are. Oh, dude, this breakdown is excellent. Nice to hear Jesse come back in here, though, to be fair. Back to that chorus. Smart move. Okay, yeah, again, it's a situation where, like, we've had enough to justify having a straight repeat of that chorus. Again, I'm not usually a fan of just copying and pasting, like, the outro chorus, but we're gonna see what else they do differently, you know? Got a little bit of change. Nice. Bringing that lead riff in there, reminding us where we've been and where we're going. Smart move here. Those drums and the guitars, man, the precision of the mixing and the way that they are performing as well. Like, for those double kicks and those tremolo picked rhythm guitar parts underneath that lead solo, or that lead line bit and that final bit before we kind of had the panning stuff going on, everything was in time. Everything was in time. It was impressive, to be honest. It's not just a production standpoint kind of thing. It's also like a technical perspective. You can tell the Reap the Light, along with everyone else involved, really cared about this music, and they wanted to give the best possible experience, not only for the listener, but also just wanted to make the best music they could. Deliver Hell is a fantastic album, and I think that if anybody is a fan of like this kind of rock and metal, that they should go listen to it, you know? Descend to Madness with Polina Faustova and Iggy Rod. I think we had Polina earlier on for Hollow, which was kind of cool. That was a very different track, but that's okay. Got a music box or something like that? Is this more like Hollow, is it? I would be happy if it was more like Hollow, to be fair, because Hollow was a big departure from what we had with the previous 5 tracks, you know? 1 to 5. I really hope that we have these string elements and these more sort of like folk-like elements with the heavier drums and guitars and stuff. Like, I don't even mind if it turns into a really cheesy ballad or something like that, you know? Great voicing in that cello. Good. Good job, Reap the Light.
Take
Oh, a minor shift. I wasn't expecting this. I was enjoying it so far. But I don't know why I wasn't expecting it to go minor at this point. There's a sense of darkness and foreboding about this. It sounds like a cautionary tale almost. The guy's being very patient with his vocal performance there and you know, it's like he's guiding us along. It's kind of a cool sort of kind of a cool feeling to it, you know?
Abandon all you've known. Forget now what you see. You'll never be alone.
Sounds almost cinematic, you know?
Voices call from the dark, distorting my reality.
Which means, you know,
Crushing my will to live, can I cheat immortality? As brothers in time of war, will we ever meet again? In between life and death, can you tell me when? Whatever can I do to release you from this pain? Now you lost forevermore.
he's being explorative with his vocal melodies and emoting in different situations appropriately to what's being happening in the story. And I think that's really clever, you know. Iggy Rod, assuming he is the one that's singing this part, matches the kind of the complexity of the harmonic arrangement really, really well. And I think that it's an easy listen at this point.
In this grave, always to remain. Take my hand, come
Back to that bridge.
abandon all you've known. Forget now what you see. You never be alone. Voices call from the dark, distorting my reality. Crushing my will to live, can I cheat immortality? Sent to madness, losing my identity.
That's what I was hoping for. It was kind of what I was hoping for in Hollow. I'm glad that we got it in this track. It's 7 minutes 30. You need to have this progression through. You need to have these different sections in order for the... You can't just have the original riffs for 7.5 minutes. You've got to... It's got to be a journey.
Madness, ignoring my destiny.
And that's what we're getting, you know? Now that was a cool little technical drum fill before we go into this new part here. I never know what's going to happen next. It's almost progressive, dude. We're back to another part, another verse.
My brothers have been betrayed. His fate was not my choice. Atoning for sins sinful, not mine to pay alone. Sentenced to the pit of hell, reaping more than I've sown. Take my hand, come with me, abandon all you've known.
So is this someone figuring out that they're losing their mind, the chase for immortality, wondering if they can cheat and then losing themselves in the process?
Forget now what you see, you'll never be alone. Voices call from the
I like the strings here because they kind of sound like the voices in your head. They're different. They're not saying words, but they're a nice metaphor for it, you know?
distorting my reality, crushing my will to live. Can I cheat immortality? Sent to madness, losing my identity.
Fantastic hook, dude. The power in those guitar parts with the drums in sync with those.
My destiny. Sent to madness,
Nice increase in the intensity of those drums there. Dun-dun-dun-dun. It's nice just to have the guitar, the drums, and the strings and the bass here, you know? While I enjoy listening to Iggy Rod speak, we've kind of got the feel of what he's all about at this point. At least a rough concept. And I cannot believe that it's 5:42. I cannot believe how quickly those 5 and a bit minutes have gone. Solo section? That's really great teamwork and chemistry there. That is considerate, you know, because I think Paulina has been involved in Hollow as well as this, and it's nice for her to have a go here in this one, have her own kind of time to shine. How are we finishing this? Is this a... Oh, those toms though, dude. And the strings in the center. Interesting panning. I'm so glad that we're allowing more of the string solo to come through. I mean, I think we've got different sections. There's something happening in the middle, which is quite frenetic, and then we've got that sort of held quarter note, half note feel on the side. And we've had a lot of guitar solos in this album, so it's nice to take a break from that and have something different. Triplets now? Who would have expected that? I didn't. We got triplets now, dude. Dude. See how like the instruments take turns? Sometimes the guitar is frenetic and really intense and energetic and speedy, you know? Sometimes you have the drums come in and you'll get them being a little bit more intense. And then the guitar will hold back a little bit. And, you'll allow the guitar to play those quarter note chords. And I just love that we have people taking breaks and knowing how to establish an equilibrium in regards to the arrangement of the performance. I can't believe that's it, though. I can't believe we're almost through. That went so smoothly, dude. It's bittersweet that it's over, you know, because I'm glad to have been able to get a fade out here. That's a classy move. You've definitely earned a fade out there. Again, I'm not a massive fan of fade outs, especially when they're cutting content that you could be listening to, but I feel like we got most of the riff at this point, 7 and a bit minutes through the song. It's bittersweet because I've enjoyed listening to this stuff and I'm glad I got to review the album, but at the same time, you can't hear the album the same way the second time, can you? Although to be fair, there's lots of replay value in this track. In this album, I mean. There's also appreciate the second time around, but we've got Victory is Near. And just shout out to Iggy for his performance there. He did kind of sound like someone kind of crying out and wanting someone to come with him as he went further and further into that sort of outside of reality, you know? You can kind of imagine that struggle, that psychological turmoil there in that vocal performance. And it's very, very authentic. Well done. Everything fit really well together. The final track, Victory is Near by Read the Light, Eleanor Dona, and Rebecca Georgiadi. Let's go. This is a shorter one, which is kind of interesting. We're not messing around with the guitar and the drums, though. That cymbal work is phenomenal. Oh yeah. Alright. Hell yeah, dude, this is dope. It was nice to have, is that Eleanor or Rebecca Giordiardi? I'm not sure which it is. A lot of these vocalists I haven't heard before, you know. But I like that we went up with that kind of power metalish kind of groove just before this new section there. We heard the vocals fairly clear, talking about being a puppet and not being a slave and stuff like that. Cool, cool. I apologize for nothing, my victory is near. So we're saying, no, no matter how much you think you've got this over me, no, you haven't got any power over me. I'm free, and soon I'll be out of these chains. Victory will be near. The guitar sounds like it's driving forward. The track has this pace to it, which is almost like we're progressing towards that sense of freedom there, you know? Damn, dude. We are not messing around. We gotta keep our distance or else we're gonna be in danger. I love the charisma and energy within this performance. There has not been one single weak vocalist within this entire album. Read the Light have chosen fantastic people to work with. Great vocal fry in some of these bits as well, dude. That was a visceral scream on their left side, wasn't it? My goodness, what did they do to get that sound, dude? It was fantastic. It was so unexpected. It was that scream of rage, you know? It makes a lot of sense with the story that we've heard so far. Tonally, it works well with the guitar, bass, and drums. Nice to have that on the right side as well. Oh, it's panning. There's some automation to the panning. That's so clever, dude. It surrounds you in the headphones. It's the production value on this is pretty sick, dude. Is this the single off of the album? Makes me wonder whether this is a single considering it's 3 minutes. Shit, man. How do you even get that good on the mic, dude? Like, I cannot fathom the work it would have taken to be able to control that flow there. Control your breath well enough to hold that note for that long with that much power as well. And it just worked so well, regardless of whether we've got the quick words coming through or whether we're holding the notes. The guitar, the musical accompaniment is so... It's so easy to work with that you can twist and change it however way you want. I Will Rise. Damn, dude. That's the album. I'll give that a like as well, because this is the conclusion for my review of Deliver Hell, the entirety of the album, split across 2 different review videos by Reap the Light. You know, truth be told, it's not often that I get an album come through where I like every single song. In fact, it's incredibly rare, even among albums that I've heard from musicians that I really, really like. It's always this one song or the second song where there's like, oh, they could have maybe done it differently or done it better. But I genuinely feel the Reap the Light, they really cared about every single track on this album. And while I've given my thoughts on the first 6 from Burn in Hell to Hollow, and I should probably focus on Dark as Night, just before we go any further, if you've not watched the first review that I did, the first part of this review, please do go watch the first part of this review, the part 1 of the Deliver Hell Reap the Light album. Go because that'll give you a lot of context, and a lot of the stuff I'll say next will probably make a little bit more sense. But you know, Dark as Night, Run Israel Run, Descend to Madness, and Victory is Near are just 4 extra pieces to the puzzle in this 10-piece experience that I just think are absolutely vital within the genre in this day and age. I've got no complaints about it. Much like the first review where I think it was like damn near flawless in regards to the feedback I provided. As in, like, the music was damn near flawless. The story-wise, Darkest Night, I think, is someone being corrupted by evil and struggling for an escape. Run Israel Run was about someone being hunted, but I didn't quite understand the context to that and who specifically it was they were talking about. Descent to Madness was about someone kind of trying to find immortality and going sort of insane in the process. And then Victory's Near is about someone who is like chained down or oppressed, and they've found a way to get out of that, and well, they're finding a way to get out of that, and they're gonna, once they're free, you don't want to be anywhere near them because they'll just rip you apart. Really cool vocalists, you know. I could, you know, recognize them individually. They're unique tonalities. They suited the subject matter that they were discussing really, really well, and the technique displayed was great. And I can only imagine it would have taken a while for Reap the Light to find and decide on these different musicians to work with, but I think that the wait, if there was one, was a smart idea. I don't think there's a single singer on this album that shouldn't have been there. I adore them. For the most part, the words came through clearly. There were occasional points where I couldn't entirely understand what was being said, but they were doing their best, you know. I'm assuming by the names alone that English may not have always been the people's first language, and they're singing incredibly well in English, all things considered, so well done to them, you know? It's not easy to sing in a different language, but they nailed it, I think. I'm really happy with all 10 tracks on here from a vocal perspective, and I've talked about how I felt about the individual performances in here. It was elevated by the post-production, which we'll get into the end. Structuring of these tracks, I mean, obviously Descent to Madness was an exception because it wasn't necessarily through composed, but then it was. It almost had 3 different parts to it. I think the softer intro, then when the distorted guitars come in, and then a really frenetic bit at the end with the string solo. That was a fun one. Whenever I see a track for 7.5 minutes, it always scares me a little bit. A, because that's a long track for me to review consistently, but also, what are you gonna do for 7.5 minutes? But even with Reap the Light, I was like, no, I've heard there are other tracks on this album, and I feel like I'm in safe hands. And I think that's what's so important, is that you cannot just assume when you put out a long track that people are going to listen to the whole damn thing. Unfortunately, no matter how much you might sort of believe otherwise, there's millions of songs. You cannot assume that if you make a long song that people are going to have the time or the interest or the need to listen through it all. It's why I think a lot of people make tracks that are 2-3 minutes. And you could say, well, okay, what about all these other tracks that are between 4 and... The only track that's between 2 and 4 minutes is Victory's Near. And I think that each of these tracks justified its length. They were structured in ways that were interesting. That the arrangements never became stale. Sure, we might have repeated a couple of outro choruses a second time, but we made little adjustments in them and added little bits of vocal layering or whatever that kept them sounding fresh. It was fine. There were lots of little solo sections and drum fills and all that. The instrumental performances were completely on point. I've got nothing but love for the precision, the dexterity and technique on display here. We played appropriately for the different moods. They were sort of provided throughout these different tracks. Obviously, when it was more of a slow dance, we went slower. We had those quarter note grooves and stuff, those held chords. But then when we speed it up, we had the furious alternate sort of galloping and palm mutes and the really kind of widdly kind of thrashy solos, and it was just great. The harmonies were never predictable, the motifs were memorable, and you know, music, there was a lot of great sense of musicality to the overall experience that I thoroughly appreciate. From a post-production or a production standpoint, I mean, like, again, they nailed it with the last 4 tracks as well. Each of these tracks in here was recorded, mixed and mastered well. The production, the post, like automation and effects change on the various extra bits of vocal tracks and stuff like that, and the screams and stuff were cool. There was a nice sense of dynamic range to the recording. It never felt like it was too much or if it was too loud or if it was too soft. We had a great sense of balance, and it was never tiring to listen to, no matter how heavy it got. I think this is music that will be appeal to a lot of people, even if you're not super hardcore in this kind of rock and metal stuff. I think that some of the themes that we've got throughout this album are things that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to. None of it was cheesy, none of them love for this, and it was nice and loud without, you know, pumping. Limited compression was great. All in all, again, as a final comment, I genuinely think that Reap the Light is a band that you should pay attention to. With Deliver Hell, it's a phenomenal album, and I wish them the best of luck in future with their musical endeavors. I'm glad to have been able to review this. It's one of my favorite albums that I've reviewed this year, and I really hope they can put out more stuff soon, because it'd be cool listen to more of their music. But effectively, this is my review of Reap the Light's Deliver Hell. This is the part 2. But I've now reviewed the entirety of the album. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show Reap the Light some love via their various social medias and their Spotify page. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.